Welcome to All Things Engineering by EIT. This is a podcast where we cover industry insights, emerging trends, and practical knowledge across engineering disciplines.
Okay. Hi, Carolina. Good to have you explaining all these intricacies of AI as applied to the engineering job analysis. And it's really good to sort of get a bit of a grasp of what's going on here. Can you run through what you've actually done with the analytics and the AI, and whether it's something useful or whether this is complete gibberish?
Absolutely. It's great to catch up again. Another podcast for us. So essentially, I guess for anyone listening, the value here is about how to really play to the strengths of AI to extract value in your everyday research and work and lives. So what we've done is inspired by a presentation we just ran in our EIT 2025 Doctor of Engineering Conference, which was recently done this week. And essentially, we've explained how we've used job advertisement data and AI to guide the creation of industry-aligned engineering courses. And the key there is to be useful, adding value, not just gibberish.
That's good, yeah. That's good, excellent.
So
give us in a nutshell what you did, which was useful, and some of the biases and issues that we may need to think about.
Absolutely. So the task started by pulling data of engineering-related jobs across 7 markets around the world, and this was from August and September of 2024. And we managed to extract just over 300,000 jobs, which was quite a bit of data. Obviously, a lot of AI used around processing this wealth of information. So we went with OpenAI, Google Gemini, Flash, Python, ChatGPT, and we've dissected the data in terms of the disciplines, the distribution in the countries, job levels, and especially the skills. So what was really interesting for us to understand is what's being asked from a skill level, technical and non-technical, of the professionals in these roles.
So it's just mainly engineering, and did you do IT as well, or just engineering? It's not like
just engineering. We did incorporate software as a discipline, software engineering, in another run we did, which is skipping ahead a little bit, but yeah, we've repeated the exercise. So for the first run, no, we've excluded it. It was quite a large data set, so we felt it was biasing the results a little bit. But it does include sort of technician levels as well, and trades. Yeah. So there is a report that we've created, and it's available on the EIT website. And we repeated, as I said, the exercise, pulling data again of jobs in February of this year, 2025. And went a little bit further, a step extra, and created an interactive dashboard that, for those as well, if you navigate to the website, you'll be able to click on that and filter what you want and how you want to look at it. So it's pretty interesting insights, skills, work cloud built based on disciplines and locations, as we said. So lots you can drill into.
So this is just real, like, signals of what's going on in the job market. What are the demands? Do you see any AI sort of impact yet in terms of the actual requirements for jobs yet?
It's been mentioned, and it's increasing, and that's why we've decided that this is an exercise worth repeating over time, just to be able to pick up on those trends better. It wasn't as big as it was made out to be, I think, in a lot of the media.
I think engineering is always a bit behind, actually. So obviously in a IT market, you probably find there would be more mention of AI, but
and I think, as you said, a lot of those hands-on sort of disciplines and skills, AI won't be able to lay down the bricks, would it? So it depends on
not yet
yeah,
until the robots arrive.
But I guess what it came down to was that we realized, yes, great, we have all this data, and it's pretty interesting, I think, but where to from here? How do we extract value? And for anyone out there, what would that mean to them? So it was a bit of like an analogy of having that gold nugget buried underneath and not really knowing that it's there. So we had the problem of saying, how do we know if we're actually delivering skills are in demand? How do we know if we're hitting?
So what you're saying, take the job requirements, the 300,000 lovely jobs out there, look at the skills, and then let's look at particular courses which would help
learn those skills.
Get to gain those skills. Yep.
So obviously at EIT, we've been driving new and different courses over the years because we understand technology and the industries change and we need to keep up. And that's one of the problems probably with education, can lag behind real market needs, industry needs. So we did, again, a bit of brain power there, cross-checking the EIT courses in specifically against these in-demand skills and seeing which ones are we delivering. We could prove from the curriculum. But what was probably more valuable is what we're not delivering on. So from there, we've extracted the specific skills that we could see we weren't mentioning in our courses. However, that was its own challenge again, because there was a lot of skills mentioned that we maybe weren't delivering on. So how to know where the opportunities lay, how to identify a potential course out of all those skills. So did a little bit of abductive inference. We've decided after hitting, banging our head against the wall.
Maybe you can explain what abductive is. I always hear about deductive
and inductive.
What's abductive?
Well, apparently it is when you start off from solid data and base a conclusion out of the data. So it's when you begin with data, but you then infer something and create that conclusion or hypothesis that you go on and validate. So I guess, looking at the skills isolated, it was hard to understand a pattern or where the opportunity lay for a training course around that. So decided to go the other way around and said, all right, if we know there's a skill in demand that EIT is currently not delivering, how do we figure out the course or training to cover that? So filter the jobs that included that specific skill and fed those filtered jobs to AI again and said, what sort of training would someone need or education to be able to perform the duties in these job adverts? And it was quite fascinating because then it actually came back with, for example, the area of CAD, I forget what it stands for, CAD? Do you remember, Steve? Computer-aided design. Yeah.
So, it's obviously the buzzword used, and everyone talks about CAD and SolidWorks and AutoCAD and all the other packages out there. So definitely that's always a demand, but obviously there's 1 million people running CAD courses and you can do them online, YouTube or whatever. So you've come up with a really great wrinkle or change to that, which is actually really useful, which I find absolutely fascinating. Maybe you can give us a bit more detail
so
on that.
The devil's in the detail, definitely. So it's applied. So as we said, CAD courses out there, many available. So why would EIT want to do yet another one? But I guess we understood that there's a benefit into teaching CAD in an applied context. So if you want to learn CAD for mechanical engineers and you're at an entry level, this is what you need to get started. So when we ask AI to help us understand the training that someone would need, we also force it to follow a certain model of training, a short course within, say, 15 to 20 hours that someone can be doing online with ideally a live instructor along the way, giving them real life experience on the jobs. And it came back with these suggestions of 3 different levels of CAD training, depending on how you apply it to. So, and there's a few more examples of other skills and applications we've pulled out of following this same logic. Which
So what as I understand, what you're saying is you do the CAD course, but let's apply it to the particular scenario, and that's when it becomes really useful training, and it's not very evident on YouTube or any other channel. So basically you say, hey, let's teach you CAD, that's good, but let's look at conveyor belts, material transportation or let's look at instrumentation applications of CAD or electrical wiring applications. So let's look at the application and assume that you've got a bit of a CAD knowledge, and let's look at how we apply it to the real world. And that information, that knowledge, those skills are very scarce, and that's where the demand is.
Exactly. So one of the titles or sort of areas of the course suggested, as you said, is this applied CAD design and integration for manufacturing. So it will go into specifics for that area. Or there's one for mechanical systems, simulation, tooling, and PLM integration. So we think, that's a really interesting angle. That might not be.
Yeah, so that's what the jobs are saying. They're saying, look,
correct.
You can have CAD, which is useful, but we want more than that. We want you to have a particular application experience in a particular area, and that's when you become very valuable as a potential employee or winning that particular job, the actual application. So that's the magic sauce that you've obviously unraveled from all these hundreds of thousands of job adverts.
Yes. So I might skip quickly to, being aware of the weaknesses of the methodology, and there are biases and limitations inherent in that job data itself. There's a bit important to be mindful of the reliability and the validity of what we're producing. So the jobs, the way they describe positions and even job titles, it's inconsistent. It makes it quite an interesting challenge in the data segmentation, I guess, or sorting out and cleaning up where things belong. The instability, so ambiguity in the skills descriptions. A job might be there, but it might not be. There might be a temporal demand really for it. The employer biases, obviously the markets we've looked at as well. So we picked a few because they align with our interests, but also where there is an engineering wealth, I guess, of demand. I'm trying to think which ones.
Those reliability and validity is always good to have whenever you're doing research, is to make sure these are the negatives with the work that you've done. But I think that despite those weaknesses, you've still got a very solid case for those particular jobs. Market distortions are always there. A particular project starts up in Perth or Johannesburg or London, and then, of course, they suddenly discover they need thousands of engineers in a particular discipline, and then sort of 6 months later it disappears again. So those are all understandable, and I think as long as you're aware of those weaknesses, you're away. That's fine.
And part of repeating the exercise, which is not easy, it's a bit time consuming to do all this project, but repeating it over time is to understand what's consistently showing or what trends are emerging, so that we don't just rely blindly on one data set and believe that that's it. And we've just got a few more slides here which are worth looking at. We've always also want to talk a bit about a skill, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. A skill is really something like an electrician does a wiring of a panel or something like that. That's a particular skill. And then, of course, the other aspect is knowledge, which is the next slide, which is, the types of skills, and then knowledge types, declarative, procedural, etc. And those are all good to know about. And then competency is also a word that's used a lot these days, and I think it's also important to realize, as we spoke about, that is, if you define a training course with particular competencies and you spend years putting it all together, you've got to be really aware that that competency is for a particular task, and of course it changes, and as soon as it changes, you've got a problem with your training course. So one's got to be really, really careful with all this emphasis on competency, to make sure that you keep adjusting the courses, the actual content, to accommodate the changes in the market, because it's changing all the time, and it's even changing even faster. So it's not just about doing something. Being competent might be misunderstood to just being able to do a task, but it is going beyond, perhaps, or we should be going beyond in terms of knowing what, how, and why. Is that example of someone learning to cook, but you've got to, if the environment changes, and you see that with bread and what's it when it's gonna it ferments and it grows. What's the yeast? You remember when
yeast?
Yeah. Anyway, and the temperature affects it.
And the different styles of cooking are changing. Cooking is a great example. Your cuisine requirements change all the time, and you've just got to be really aware of it. And of course, the technology is changing so fast all the time. And I would imagine in Australia, for example, with certain states saying no more gas because of sustainability issues, you're using electricity now. That would also change how you do your cooking. So I think competency is a very important thing, but you've got to have a bit of ability to tolerate changes in what you're doing all the time, and so it's a wide thing. So marketing of courses, you've probably got a few words to suggest here.
Yeah, I think it's more for anyone maybe not so much in the marketing space. If you're more in the engineering, this be a bit out of your comfort zone. But what we've been discussing is the value of creating something that's in demand, that's going to address a need. So for doctoral research as well, not just researching something because it seems interesting, what application, what value could it have in real world for other people. So when it comes to putting together a course that you think or we think could be good, there's a few things that you can look at. Competitors, obviously, if there's anyone, as we said before, with CAD, yes, plenty of people delivering CAD courses, but how many are there applied to a specific context or area in engineering? You can obviously go out with, A/B testings. You can do look at employers and talk to industry, talk to professional bodies, and examine and take the job advert data as one signal from the market. But ideally, get a few more references. And as I said, with pre-launching, you can always do a quick test with a webinar, understand, how the message resonates, what sort of demand there might be. And then when it comes to pricing, that's a very important P in the marketing.
The four
jargon,
Ps,
the four Ps,
the four Ps or the 6 Ps or whatever. Pricing is really important. Yeah, it will keep changing. So pricing is important. How do you think prices will affect courses going forward?
Look, I think people are expecting more for less, so they know their options. So why should they give any amount to anyone? So if anything, they're becoming obviously more critical and more savvy. So it's not about going always for the cheapest offer or option, I should say, but it is about the value, the perceived value of what you're getting and what you're prepared to pay. So obviously there's an expectation, I think, as well with AI, which we'll touch on a couple of slides about AI's impact in all of this, but that, it's AI, it should be really, low cost because there's no one involved in this. And however, it's not quite like that. At the end of the day, you still need human intervention. You still want to make sure what's being delivered makes sense and is right, and question it and review it. And I think at EIT in particular, we do push in all of our courses that live component. So you get that support and mentoring, which I think is it tacit learning when you're learning as well from someone?
From an expert in the subject. Tacit learning is really important. You can't just look at a formula and say, hey, that's the learning. It actually goes well beyond that. So having a master baker teaching you how to make that incredible bread is what it's all about, tacit learning. But I also think AI, everyone's going on to AI for teaching and learning, but ultimately, if you're using AI to do marking of student scripts and teaching, you've got to price it appropriately, and you've got to make sure that it delivers the quality. And there's a lot of very disillusioned people with AI teaching, so one's got to be really vigilant, I think, about how you apply it.
Well, that's why there's the secrets of the trade, isn't it? When someone's been through it and learned the hard way, that's usually something, there's that instinct, and I think you develop by doing things and learning that you can't just get from a book, really.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've nearly the end of it. In the deliverability of courses, so as we say, we got to balance that alignment with the market needs and the accreditation and move quickly, because I think that's what we've noticed as well. Industries and technology change, and you can't take too long to address a gap in the market. So that's always a fine line to work on. Refreshing content, because again, it's trying to stay up to date and give value to those studying. Otherwise, why would they want to do it? And the instructors, which we find critical and such a essential part.
Highly experienced instructors that are interesting. The lecturer model, where you just talk for 45 minutes, is long gone. And anyone who thinks they can sustain that at a university or college is not going to be very happy with the results. And then finally, just the measurement of your training. I think it's something which people don't do enough of, and that is check that your training actually is delivering results. And there's 4 levels from Kirkpatrick, which I always find quite fascinating. Reaction, which is level 1, which says, hey, are the students happy with the course? And we always look at that with smiley faces on score sheets. Hello, yeah, Steve did a good job, or no, I was very disappointed.
Yeah.
Reviews. But that doesn't tell you whether there's any learning. So the next level is learning, where you actually measure learning by tests, assignments, exercises they do, and the student does. So that's also really good. But that's not the full story, because behavior transfer is where you actually transfer the knowledge to the particular student. And so, for example, if it's a safety course, did the number of, are they better in removing accidents and things like that? So that's really important. And finally, level 4, which often they refer to as return on investment, is were there real results in the training? Did you actually do something significant? In other words, if you provided a CAD course on conveyor design and you went on to a particular site, did you shorten the time to do the design, or did you come up with a better design which allows you to reduce your costs or improve your throughput or whatever? Are those the real results? And I think that sometimes we don't often do with training, and we should do it all the time.
Well, there's a bit of a phrase here about if learning doesn't change behavior or results, we should ask, did it really work? So
yeah, absolutely. And I think we don't do enough measurement of the results. That's really important. And then finally, AI's impact. I mean, that's, as you mentioned earlier on, Carolina, that's really going to be a big thing going forward. I mean, there's a lot of disinformation or misinformation about AI, but certainly it's definitely impacting in all sorts of areas, and we've got to be vigilant about it with AI's impact.
I think it's being smart, I think we said it as well before, being critical. So don't, just questioning things. Don't just take it for granted or think that if it's there, it's right.
Look
at it from
thinking.
different angles and go deeper, because it is a tool, it is there, but you have to, like everything, use it smart.
Yeah, absolutely. Carolina, I reckon that's one of the biggest challenges with AI, is that people think it's got all the answers, but in fact it doesn't. You've got to be critical, because sometimes 90% of what the AI tool gives you is correct, and then there's 10% which is complete rubbish. And I think the other problem with AI is that it's very American-centric. So if you've got a local problem, a local application, you may not be getting the right, exactly right application.
You might assume conditions or environmental, even realities that are relevant for some markets, but not all.
Not all markets.
So what do you think with young, professionals that are just finishing and graduating and being kind of thrown into this?
I think it's a really incredible world. I think the first thing is you've got to make sure you've got a lot of knowledge in your head. That's the first thing, which is hard to believe. So look, I mean, it's like a calculator. You learn the 12 times table, up to the 12 times table, you got it in your head, so you can do mental arithmetic, and then you do the calculator to do all the complicated stuff, but you know how the calculator works. And I reckon it's the same thing with AI. You need to have a basic knowledge so that you can critique what you get from AI, and certainly you've got to use AI extensively. I mean, we use it all the time, but you've got to critically look at the output and make sure that it's giving you the right answers, and then it can supplement what you're doing. I mean, I think when people write with AI, they're often disappointed because the tone is a little bit neutral or bland. So you can add the magic to it by critiquing what's come up and make it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more quirky, a little bit more you.
And I love it when I'm working sometimes with my AI tools and I'm asking it to produce something, and I accidentally hit enter, and then I haven't given the actual data that it needs, and it gives me an answer, and I go back to it. It's like, what are you basing this on? I haven't even fed you the information to do what I've asked you to do. So, I think, and also the role of mentors. I'm realizing more and more the value and the importance of that, because again, it's that experience and how to learn what to critique in these outputs. But
absolutely, and I think it's all about applications, practical work in the workplace. That is what matters.
So
you're going to summarize the whole thing in
Yes.
about 2 seconds.
2 seconds. So look, it's being vigilant of what's in demand. What are the market signals? What is being asked of professionals out there? And how to bridge that gap between a need and delivering the skills required for that. So I think AI has come to the rescue with helping with lots of data manipulation and analysis, but using it smartly and carefully to find the opportunities and test, your theories, and be mindful of how AI will impact anything you're producing as well.
Great.
So
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much, Carolina. That's brilliant. 300,000 job adverts distilled into something useful for the audience. That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve.
Much appreciated.
See you next time.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow and subscribe, and so that you don't miss future conversations. We've got some exciting guests lined up and a lot more to share. So do connect with us on social media and share your thoughts, questions, or experiences. So until next time, stay curious and keep pushing boundaries. Thanks, everyone.